TV1 රැස්වීදෙන ජීවිතේ.
Kidney diseases have plagued villages.
Newsfirst, Newsline.
Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Newsline Live. We're coming to you today live, of course, via Zoom because obviously of the situation in the country. Let's start off with introducing our guest. He is the Executive Director of PAFRL, Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchi. A very good evening, Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchi, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Bendik.
Mr. Hettiarachchi, an important few days for Sri Lankans. We were, of course, looking at getting some perspective on the matters that are unfolding in Sri Lanka from the civil society, because we've been having so many politicians on the show recently, and well, they've made their stance known, but Sri Lankans are united after quite some time in their call for a corrupt-free Sri Lanka. You yourself, as an election watchdog or the leader of an election watchdog, have been calling for more transparency, have been calling for more accountability on the part of politicians. Do you think that the Aragalaya has managed to accomplish something as far as holding our leaders accountable for their actions?
Well, they so far they have success as Aragalaya, as even as a citizens of this country, because we have been trying these changes, which we call the system change, and we have been talking about the corruptions and transparency of governance, law and order for a longer period now. But unfortunately, the civil society, we managed to an extent, but we were not able to come up to this level. Now, this Aragalaya people, we need to salute the youth group, especially those who have given a leadership, and they managed to continuously make their demand until now, and they was able to wake up the citizens of this country, and they were able to wake up the politicians also. I'm not saying that the legitimately elected government that Aragalaya people asking them to leave. Some people can raise whether it's the good practice in the country, like when we are exercising the democracy through electoral system, are we in a position to say the elected representative to leave the country or leave their positions? But I think this is a very special situation in this country. In our Sri Lankan history, the first time the people's views has changed, the people opinion, people will has changed because of the politicians was not able to manage the Sri Lankan economy, and they were not managed or they were not brought up the governance structures in this country. So I think that's why this Aragalaya was get this opportunity to wake up the people. So I think so far they have success in certain extent, but in the long run, the governing structures, the legal framework, we have to brought up. Otherwise, even whoever come as a president or prime minister, even the next moment, they also can play with this present politics. So that is why the civil society and the trade union, business community, religious leaders, all the sectors has to get together and pressurize the government to bring the sustainable solutions, sustainable governance structures. That is the main message has given by the Aragalaya people. So we need to realize that.
But Mr. Hettiarachchi, just speaking about the current parliament, many say that the current parliament has lost its mandate The people no longer believe in the current parliament. The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna has a 2/3 majority in parliament. And even after President Gotabaya Rajapaksa was ousted by the people and he was forced to submit his resignation while he was overseas, once the resignation was read in parliament, we saw a statement from the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna paying tribute to the former president for all that he has done. In that statement, of course, there was no mention of the reasons why he was forced by the people to resign. So this is the largest party in parliament right now. They have an overwhelming 2/3 majority in parliament. So when the largest party in parliament puts out a statement that does not quite resonate well with the people and is a little bit far away from the truth, what kind of message does that send to the people? Is there still a huge disconnect between the major political party in parliament? So you can, vice versa say it's a majority of parliament and the general population of the country.
So that is the real message we should understand. If you are not representing the people of this country, you may get the majority or even 2/3 majority from the parliamentary elections. But if you are not addressing the people will, and if you are not representing the people really, so the people view can be changed. People wish can be changed. Now, as you said, the present government, the president, of course, he got 69 million votes in the previous presidential elections, and they appealed for 2/3 majority in the parliament to develop this country, and they got 2/3 majority. And then again, they were requesting to the parliamentarians for a 20th amendment to get the power in president's hand. But they got everything. But unfortunately, they were not able to deliver, or even at least they were not able to control the economics in this country. And they were not able to manage the governance structures and even law and order, at least. So as a result, the people, the first time in our history, as I told earlier, the people came to the road, and the people, the majority of the public now, they are facing a lot of issues. They don't have fuel, they don't have gasoline, they don't have food, many of them. So some of them have, the medicines. So that is the government responsibility. So if you are not fulfilling your duty, we are not asking politicians to do the magic. We are asking all the parliamentarians to do their job properly. We are asking president to do his job properly, but they fail. If it is a private sector, the next moment they will kick off. They will chase them away. So in a democratic platform, you can't do that. So that is why the Aragalaya started by the youth, and they asked president to leave his positions. And now we can really get the real picture how the party who got 2/3 majority. Now you can see that there are many groups, breakaway groups from the Podujana Peramuna. So that gives us a good signal. Even I think today we saw the chairman of the party, he proposed some other candidate some other person as their candidate for the upcoming presidential elections. So this shows us how people's will has changed. Even the parliamentarians, they themselves has changed their mindset. The party secretary has given a different view, but the chairman is giving a completely opposite side. So this shows us some of the parliamentarians, they realize, so what is the people message? What is the Aragalaya people's telling us? The real message is we need to change this political culture, this corrupted political culture. So they need to bring back the governing structure in this country. So some politicians, of course, they realize this message, but unfortunately, some of the parliamentarians, we see, play with the party politics. They play with the games. I'm not sure whether they don't understand. Maybe they understand, but they are still trying to figure out some strategies to play with their power game. So this is an unfortunate situation. I think still these candidates, they have opportunity until tomorrow, even tomorrow, before the elections, they can get the consensus, they can build the consensus among the party, and they can come up with some unanimous decisions to nominate one candidate as a presidential candidate. So then you can give the message to the international community as well as the normal citizens in this country. Because with that, you can build the trust among the communities, because now the biggest issue we are facing, the people's trust. So whatever the government says, nobody will take it as a serious. For example, now the fuel issues. Now the minister is asking vehicle owners not to go to the fuel stations, and we are not sending the fuel. But the same day, some places we have seen that fuel has come. Sometimes they say that fuel will come within the next couple of days' time. Then they are not in a position to send the bouncers. So the trust of the people has big questions now. So we need to build the trust. That is the first priority in the government.
Mr. Hettiarachchi, there were stories and even views expressed by certain politicians that certain MPs are still being bribed. Certain MPs in parliament are being bribed. Now, these allegations come against a backdrop where people have overwhelmingly made known to parliamentarians, both through legal ways, such as peaceful protest, the Aragale protest, and also going a little bit above the legal frame and expressing their frustration by setting on fire. Many of the MPs in parliament had their houses burnt down. That's the level of pressure that's coming from the people, saying corruption is enough. Enough is enough. We want better governance in this country. But in your years of working with as an election watchdog, I'm pretty sure you would have come across many instances where parliamentarians were bribed to do various things. We know that the former president, Maithripala Sirisena, himself said that he quite sarcastically said that these days parliamentarians are going at a very expensive rate, 200 to 300 million rupees per parliamentarian. So that's why it's hard for us to get the majority back. When the 52-day government was in place, the constitutional coup, that's when that happened. So do you really believe, or is there a real possibility that parliamentarians, even today, when the country is at such a critical juncture, are accepting or soliciting bribes to vote for a certain candidate?
Well, it's very difficult to prove that because there is no clear evidence, or there is no way to prove that without having a very clear evidence. But everybody knows in this country, and each level, the corruption is very high. Even in the lowest level government structure, the government officers, and when do you want to do something, but you may have to pay some extra or some gift or some kind of bribe. So it came up to I think not only the parliamentarians, we heard, we do not know whether it is the correct information, that some presidents also, some of the former presidents also get alleged that they were bribed for some reasons. And we can remember some of these previous parliamentary elections that some MPs, even those who are in the parliament now, they brought the bag of the full of money into the public place and count and said that it was bribed by the politicians. We have seen the local level, even in the after the previous local council elections, appointment of the chairmans and the mayors and they publicly come and say, but nobody made the real complaints. Nobody has given real information, and nobody did a real investigations. So therefore, unfortunately, we can't prove it, and there is in certain cases, of course, we know in Monragal High Court recently, the last local elections, one of the candidates, he bribed the voters. We have proven it at the court, and he was disqualified now. But that's bribing to the voters. But we know that is the reality in this country. The politicians are the public view is politicians are getting the bribe for various things. Even the voting, even maybe some other agreements or international relations or some sort of those who engage in some development programs. So there are many incidents has reported, but unfortunately, I think that is why we are facing such a critical economic crisis. There is no proper investigations. We know how it happened even the recent past. I mean, there is a very famous stories like Desi Archike Manik Malla. And there are some incident recent part also. We know this Malvana house. So everything is there, but you can't prove it at the court because you don't get the justice. So it is only the legal challenge you can make at the court. So if you are
Mr. Hettiarachchi, of course, these are unproven allegations, and this brings to mind the famous Sinhala quote that's well known among all Sri Lankans. It goes saying, "Horage ammagin pena hanawage," because it is the same legislators that we keep on appointing to Parliament with bad track record or many allegations against them, and then we, on the other hand, stand as citizens and demand for accountability, demand for corruption to stop, and demand for legal action to be filed against these people. That is quite an apt saying to describe the current situation. Mr. Hettiarachchi, we'll quickly cross over to a short commercial break, and on the other side, we will discuss a little bit about if the change in Sri Lanka that Sri Lanka is experiencing through the Aragale protest and through people coming together and demanding for accountability is a real change. Or is it just a change that has been instilled by an economic crisis? Going on to say that once the economic crisis subsides to a certain level, the people will go back to their old ways. We will find answers to these questions after this short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Newsline live.
Newsfirst, Newsline.
Ranil, Dallas and Anura to contest for the vacant presidency.
මම යෝජනා කරනවා ගරු ඩලස් අලහප් පෙරුම මැතිතුමා. ඩලස් අලහප් පෙරුම මන්ත්‍රීතුමාගේ නම මම ස්ථිර කරමි. රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමාගේ නම යෝජනා කරන ලද නම මම ස්ථිර කරමි. අනුර දිසානායක මන්ත්‍රීවරයා මම යෝජනා කරමි. ඒ නම මම ස්ථිර කරනවා.
Who will be the next president?
පක්ෂයේ අති බහුතරයේ අදහස අනුව තමයි මම ඒ ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයේ අන්තර්ගත චන්ද්‍රසානායක සහෝදරයා මේ මැතිවරණ තරඟ වදින්නේ රටේ ජනතාවගේ ඒ අභිලාෂයන් ඉටු කිරීම සඳහා දලසලහ කරුණු මැතිතුමාට ඒ අවශ්‍ය ඡන්ද ප්‍රමාණයට වැඩිය ඡන්ද 20ක් පමණ කියන වගේ තමයි දැනටනම් පෙනෙන්නේ.
Argalaya braves on.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහත් රාජපක්ෂ ජුන්ටාවත් පළවා හරිනතුරු මේ අරගලය අඛණ්ඩව ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙනවා කියන එක අපි කියන්න කැමතියි. අරගලය අවසාන වෙන්නේ නැහැ කොහෙත්ම. වික්‍රමසිංහ ඔබට අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම යන්න වෙනවා.
Responses to the statement of the acting president regarding the April 21st attacks investigations.
එය මේ මොහොතේ බලය ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා කරපු පොදු ප්‍රකාශයක් පමණයි කියන එකයි අපගේ මතය.
A warning to social media users from the police. An Indian all-party meeting on Sri Lanka. Fuel queues heat up.
Newsfirst, Newsline.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsline Live. We're in discussion with the Executive Director of PAFRL, Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchi. Mr. Hettiarachchi, we promised our viewers out there that we will discuss on whether or not the change that Sri Lanka is experiencing right now is real change, or is this just change that has been triggered by an economic crisis that has hit everyone? It has hit home for everyone in Sri Lanka, be it the poorest of the poor to the most rich businessmen. Neither of them are, the rich businessmen aren't able to conduct their business. There's a drastic drop in their quality of life. And for the poorest of the poor, well, they are just finding it hard to make ends meet. They're finding it impossible to make ends meet and just exist. That is the state that they are in. But is this real change, Mr. Hettiarachchi? Do you think that when this economic crisis hopefully comes to a manageable level within a short period of time, or maybe even a medium term, when this economic crisis subsides to a certain level, the people will just fall back to where they were before this crisis hit home?
Well, I'm not the economic expert to give you a good analysis on that, but that is the duty of the new government, whoever coming as a president and prime minister or whatever the combinations. So that will be the primary objective of the government, because the people, as you said, the rich people, poor people, grassroots level people, there's no much difference, only the different level, but everybody affected in this economic crisis. So the first thing with the new government, they have to address this immediate crisis, fuel crisis, gasoline and medicine and the food. I mean, otherwise it creates a lot of social crisis. And it goes up to the law and order. I mean, nobody will be able to control the society if the new government is not manage the economic crisis. So they need to bring us a roadmap how they are going to address this, because this is mainly go with the dollar issue. And so far we haven't seen any of these politicians talk about how they work for this. They are only considering the IMF and taking some loan from China, India, US and many other countries. But there's no real plan. There's no sustainable plan. So you can get the loan for a short period, but you have to have a sustainable economic plan. So I think in the new government, so they need to bring all the parties into the structure and all the experts into the structure, especially the economic structure, the economic expert, and they have to come up with good proposal, good roadmap with the time frame. I don't think
Mr. Hettiarachchi, for the government to come up with a time frame or a roadmap, like you say, there has to be a certain level of stability in the country, because there is only so much that one person can do. By the looks of it, the government is too busy playing politics. Whichever government that comes into power, they're too busy playing politics, too busy managing the law and order situation in the country, that they can't really, or they don't really have time to formulate a proper roadmap. So speaking a little bit, we're in the final few minutes of this show, speaking a little bit about stability, there only seems to be two ways that Sri Lanka could achieve stability. One, if parliamentarians keep their selfish desires aside, keep their party politics aside, and vote at the interim presidential election tomorrow for a candidate who will be acceptable by the people, a candidate who does not have future political aspirations to a large extent, or a candidate who will not promote his own political party and play politics with the people. Or the people need to accept whomever parliament elects tomorrow as the interim president, despite what they want, despite the change that they want. People need to leave that demand for change aside and accept the people. What do you think is the right way? What do you think should really happen? And what do you think would happen tomorrow? Two questions, two answers.
Yeah, it's very difficult to say or difficult to come up with one clear-cut answer, because in the country situations, we do not know what will happen the next moment. even the president, even the existing acting president or prime minister or parliamentarians, nobody knows what will happen in the next moment. This is really uncertain situations. This is really sad situations. So that is why we need to have a president and the prime minister who select in a unanimous way, in a collectively. So all the parties has to take a collective decisions rather than playing with the party politics, rather than working for their personal agenda. But up to now, we have seen still some parties, some politicians are playing with that. So then with them, we all will fall down and we will not manage to economic crisis if we are not in a position to establish that sustainable the government. So that is the number one priority in the present crisis. So to address the economic crisis, so we have to have a stable political situation in the country. So they can do it within the legal framework. The only place where we can do is the parliament, because this crisis is not brought up by the people. This crisis is not brought up the Aragale people. So this is actually man-made crisis. This is created by the politicians. This is created by the former presidents, prime ministers. I'm not saying just immediate past president. Yeah, he also responsible because he speed up the crisis with taking some decisions without consulting the experts. But all the previous regimes are responsible. So this is not the voters' issue. They make us this crisis, and we all are suffering now. So that is why we are appealing the party, we are appealing the parliamentarians. At least now they need to realize. Now they need to realize, and they are the only authorized persons with the existing legal framework to take that correct decisions tomorrow at the parliament. So they have to respect the people's will. Tomorrow we are selecting the president, but always you need to keep in mind you have to select the president and prime minister both within the parliamentary system within next couple of days' time. So whoever coming as a president, so there should be a good combinations to work together, to take decisions collectively. So otherwise, if you just think about, if you look at only on the president,
party politics, so and party politics, then there won't be stability in the country. Thank you very much, Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchi. Of course, there are questions on freedom of speech, how people are supposed to use it, with various statements coming out from the government, including the acting president imposing a state of emergency in the country that was criticized by the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. But of course, there were statements also coming out from the authorities saying that people cannot influence their parliamentarians. But of course, people always have the fundamental right to influence their parliamentarians legally. People never have the right to threaten their parliamentarians. That is across the board. And really, what the Bar Association also said is the fact that you don't really need a state of emergency to take action against a person who is threatening another person, be it a parliamentarian or a normal citizen. So the general public should know that they have the right to hold their parliamentarians accountable. They have the right to express what they want to their parliamentarians within the legal framework, within a legal manner. And of course, they don't have the right to threaten parliamentarians. Thank you very much, Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchi, the Executive Director of PAFRL, for joining us on our show this evening. Thank you very much to our viewers for tuning in. Of course, continue to keep watching Newsline. We will keep you up to date on the latest political matters that are unfolding in this very volatile situation that our country is facing and affecting all of us. Take care and God bless until we meet again.